Good evening. Welcome to the latest live edition of Last Bell Boxing. Tonight we're joined by regulars Chris. Good evening, Chris.
Evening.
And Andy. Good evening, Andy.
How we doing, chaps?
Quick reminder, everyone in the sidebar, if you want to join, I've just posted the link, so feel free to join on camera or post away in the sidebar. We'll come to you periodically to answer any questions you've got.
You feeling a bit shy tonight, Cole?
Say again?
You feeling a bit shy tonight?
I'm all right. Just let me crack on. I'm all right. I've only just finished. So what we're going to do first, we're going to go through the BT card. So, Andy, I believe you're going to take us through the card. So, over to you.
Yeah, I'm not going to go through every single fight because there's as usual with cards nowadays, there's a lot of fights that are 1-0, 2-0s. So we'll start with Dennis Mccann. He's fighting Charles Tundo for the vacant WBO Youth Bantamweight title. Chris, what's your thoughts on Dennis?
I quite like him, actually. You know, decent little bantamweight, isn't he? He's from Kent. And I think, a word on this card, when it first came out, I was unsure of what I made of it. But the more I keep looking at it, it really is a prospect card, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's got some really, really great matchups in it. And you can almost see Frank Warren thinking about future fights, I think, and, coming through, depending on who wins this show. But, getting back to this one, Tundo versus Mccann, I quite like him. Mccann, 11-0, 6 KOs. Fighting a guy who we probably don't know too much about. I think we've seen him once in the UK against Tommy Frank. And Tundo is from Tanzania, 12-4-2, 5 KOs. Probably not much of a hitter by the sounds of it. So we don't know too much about him. But, yeah, I think Mccann will win this one fairly handily. Probably be a points victory for him, I think, by the looks of it. But, yeah, I think it's a really nice little title fight.
Yeah, I think this will give Dennis a little bit of a tester.
Yeah,
step him up a little bit from where he's been at. Yeah, decent enough fight. This is for him.
It is. Well, it's the right level, isn't it?
It's only over 8 rounds, isn't it? So, it's only over 8 rounds. I mean, strange one really to start putting him in for youth titles, but I guess it's all about getting experience.
Yes, I think with youth titles, even though they're only 8 rounds, they kind of give them that championship experience, don't they? They can prepare for a fight, make weight, do the check weigh-ins. So I think a lot of it is about that experience which it gives. So I think they're really helpful, the kind of youth titles.
I think Mccann could be the real deal, I do. And he's a very good talker as well. I like the way he comes in and out of range, so he's got a lot going for him. He just needs to get his man strength, doesn't it?
Yeah.
He's got plenty of time for that, anti-Cole.
Yeah. Good evening, Sean.
Evening, lads. How are you all?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Good. We're just touching on Dennis Mccann, Sean. So do you want to give us your thoughts on Dennis Mccann?
Yeah, I think he's an exciting prospect. I haven't seen overly a lot of him, only than what we've seen on BT. But, yeah, I think on all accounts he's been a good amateur. And, yeah, he's had a good start to his pro career, really.
Yeah, so I think he's one of Warren's the biggest prospects. To be honest, I quite like the stable he's putting together. Maybe not for today, but there's a lot of potential within that stable.
Yeah, in a couple of years' time, we're going to be saying he's got a fantastic stable if they all carry on.
If they all stay with him.
Yeah.
But when you look at the card, like normally you've got your A side and your B side, and this is no different in terms of that. But the B side, they're actually quality fighters who they've matched against. There's nobody with like 12 defeats and 2 wins or whatever. All the opponents on this are like 13-4 or 11-1, 12-2, that type of record. So they're all learning, testing fights. So it really is a decent card.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of international titles being chucked about on this card as well, which I'm not really a big fan of.
Yeah.
Just before we move on, I mean, what's your feeling on that, Sean? Do you think that interim or international belt means anything?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess I'm a bit of a purist, really. I think sort of the British title, European title means a lot more. I guess they're nice for rankings, but ultimately they don't really mean a lot of deal, I don't think.
And to be quite honest, you say they're good for rankings. Rankings don't seem to mean anything nowadays in boxing.
No.
You've got the headliner on this fight, David Avenisian, who we're going to come to in a minute. ranked number 2 in the WBF as of this year, should have been fighting Ortiz, shouldn't it? And that fight didn't happen.
Or Ben.
Well, yeah, but it should have been Ortiz for the mandatory spot, Carl.
Or Ben.
No, not Ben for the mandatory spot.
No, or Ben. Ben would be just a bigger fight as Ortiz Jr.
No, absolutely.
No, you're missing my point. That doesn't get in the mandatory spot. Anyway, we'll get on to that in a minute. Let's carry on with the card. So Louis Lynn is fighting James Beach Jr. This is for the WBC International Featherweight title. Louis Lynn sat at 10-0. James Beach Jr. 14-2. Again, as Chris has just said, this is another one fairly decent matchup.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on this, Carl?
Yeah, I've seen little bits of Louis Lynn. He looks quite handy, don't he?
Yeah.
I know Warren's got big hopes for this kid. But I've been watching a little bit of James Beach on my lunch, I might add, just in case the boss is watching. So this isn't a gimme fight by any stretch of the imagination. But I still think Louis Lynn will win out. I think again, I'm with you on these international titles. They don't really mean much. But I like Louis Lynn. He's slick. I like him. So yeah, I think he'll win out. Late stoppage for me.
I think that, a lot of these international titles are the promoters kind of buying favour in a way, aren't they? With the ranking organisations, and these all the fights that are on for the WBC. There's 3 of them. They're for the silver international title, which even probably devalues it even further. The kind of way it's meant to work is that anybody can fight for an international. Then when you get to a kind of intercontinental, that's meant to be for your top 15, then you progress upwards, but they've lost their value really. But this fight in particular, I quite like Jimmy Beach. Like obviously I'm old enough to remember his dad as well. I think his dad was a fighter. He's lost twice to Brad Foster and Chris Burke. They were at bantam and super bantam. So he's stepping up here to feather. And Louis Lynn, bit of a banger. He's got 7 knockouts on his record here.
Yeah.
So I think this could be a really entertaining fight, this one.
James Beach smacks a typical boxer who just hadn't had any promotion. He just not had a push.
And those 2 fights which he lost, they were like, was it a British and Commonwealth title fight, one of them as well? So I think that was one to Brad Foster. So, he's been matched quite heavily because Foster's a really, really decent prospect in himself.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you're getting pulled in as the opponent on that sort of standard, you're never getting a fair crack, really, are you?
No. But he's not a banger, though, as Beach, though, is he? He's only had 2 knockouts, so, he's a distance fighter, volume puncher. But, I can see Louis Lynn winning this fight quite handily. And, it wouldn't surprise me if he actually stopped him. He's going to be naturally the bigger man.
Yeah. Okay, swiftly moving on. Sam Knox is going in against Vincenzo Finiello. This is again WBC International Lightweight title. Sam Knox is sat at 8-0. Vincenzo is sat at 15-4-2. I like Sam Knox a lot.
Well, he's going to fight Mark Chamberlain at the end of the year, innit? Come on, it's obvious.
That's what this fight is, isn't it? It almost feels like a little mini tournament, this one, with the one above, both at lightweight.
And Finiello's only not one person out, Hunter, in 15 wins.
Yes, it strolls this for me, mate. Strolls it.
I think Finiello's, you look at his record and you see he's got those 4 losses. Those 4 losses came back to back, for him. And I think when you look at them, he's had 5 wins since that. That was 2015, 2016. He lost 4 in a row. But since then he's come back. He's a southpaw. He's won the Italian title. I don't think it'll be a banana skin because when you've got Sam Knox in with 8 KOs out of his 8 wins, I think you can see which way this fight's probably looking like on paper. But I think this one could be competitive while it lasts, but you'd expect Knox to take him out.
It's a typical Frank Warren move, isn't it? Get both fighters onto the same card, get them some exposure with a BT audience, with a view that it's a slightly bigger fight with a bit more profile when they fight each other at the end of the year.
Yeah. At least, one could say Frank's got form for doing that. You kind of look at what you've done with Lyndon Arthur and Anthony Yard. At least he put that on. So he's got form for bringing guys together.
He's definitely not scared to put his fighters in against each other, is he?
No.
That's one thing Eddie Hearn falls down on, in my opinion. He tries to protect his fighters too much. Either that, or he favours one of them, and then the other one just don't get a push.
Yeah. I mean, these two guys, both of them are from down south, aren't they? In terms of Mark Chamberlain, he's like Portsmouth way, Brighton way, and then you've got the other Knox, he's Maiden Headway. So you've got like quite a decent rivalry from the south there. So that they could both sell tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely see what's going to happen here. They might even fight each other next.
Well, that's what I said. That's what they're predicting, aren't they? They're going to fight end of the year. So, yeah.
So what's your predictions on this one then? Do we think Knox will extend that KO run to 9?
Yeah. Why not? What do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I agree with you lads. I think Knox has looked faultless really so far, and I think he'll carry on looking that way until he's really tested.
Yeah. I say, okay, so moving on, as we've just talked about Mark Chamberlain, he's fighting Jeff Oskari, is it?
Close enough.
Yeah.
Chamberlain's 9-0. Jeff Oskari's 11-3-1. Yeah. Again, this is just set to make Chamberlain look good, I think.
Chamberlain can bang though. 6 KOs from them 9.
Yeah.
And he's a southpaw, so that's always an interesting one. We've seen Oskari over here before. Don't know if you guys seen him. He fought Harry Davis, and that's his knockout loss. So Harry Davis is reasonably handy. I know a lot of people don't rate him after what happened against Jack Cattrall, but that probably is shown to kind of be a different level now, isn't it? That performance. And obviously Josh Taylor. Again, people think that he quit O'Hara Davis, but I think he's a decent fighter. So to knock out 40, he's got something there still. So, I think, again, another learning fight and, one that we can see Chamberlain winning.
Do you think it's right for him to fight next, though, Carl? Or do you think they should let this grow a little bit? Wait till they've got a bit more experience?
I'd throw him in together. I think he smacks a bit of DeGale Groves. I don't think the loss will do any of them any harm. It'll raise both the profiles. The stock's going to rise on the back of the fight. So unlike other fights, I'd rather him fight a live opponent rather than go and have another 20 fights against nobodies.
Fair enough. Sean?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the right time to match them against each other. They're only going to learn from fighting each other, aren't they, really? And that will truly see who's better than each other. So I think that's the right thing to do.
Okay. Moving on to the fight before headline. Hamza, I like to punch fighters when they're on the floor. Shiraz. He's fighting Jez Smith. This is for the WBC International Middleweight title. So just for me, there's still been no clarification. No one's come out from the board or anything about what happened with Bradley Skeet. That's still been just left. Or let's just forget about that, and then everyone will just go away.
Shiraz did offer him the rematch, but Bradley Skeet's retired.
Yeah. Are you surprised?
No, not at all. At all.
He's completely disillusioned with the sport, and any wonder why he was schooling Shiraz in that fight.
Mm.
And then he gets punched 3 times when he's on the floor. Fair enough, he got knocked down, which was a fair punch, but then you get, you're not defending yourself, and you get smacked 3 times when you're on the floor.
I think the worst thing was Shiraz's reaction. He wasn't very classy, was he, after the fight? There's no apology or, anything of that ilk. So he wouldn't have endeared himself to the majority of the boxing public.
The problem is, he's got form as well because he's done it before. It's not the first time.
But I think it is just another one of those cases, isn't it, of the British Boxing Board of Control kind of closing ranks, and we don't get to hear anything. And this fight, I'm not saying it was a massive fight at the time, but I think we actually commented on that, both myself and you, Andy. We heard even Simon Jordan talking about it on TalkSport at one point. So it did capture the imagination when it happened, and people were a wee bit thrown out by the fact that it was just a a KO win in the 9th round for him. It shouldn't have been. I would love to have seen him come back again because Bradley Skeet's as honest as they come. But to kind of lose him in the sport, I think, just to get disillusioned, they'll have made no money from the sport, I bet you.
No.
And it's such a shame when we lose a guy like that who defended his British title and fought well, and he leaves the sport on a sour note. And
shame on Frank Warren as well, because Bradley Skeet, not that long back, Frank Warren was raving about Bradley Skeet and about what he was going to do in the sport. All of a sudden, he falls out of favour because he loses a fight or two.
Yeah.
And then what? He's just tossed to the side because
happens a lot.
It's disgraceful though, Carl.
I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying it happens a lot.
Someone like Skeet, so he's not a ticket seller either, is he, Bradley Skeet? He was always brought in as a kind of away fighter. Then he turned into quite a very, very decent prospect and won a title. But even then, he never sold tickets.
Well, let's have it right. Eddie Hearn did the same with Sam Eggington. Built him, gave him a lot of push, and all of a sudden, he was on Channel 5 with Edison.
I don't know if you're aware of this, guys. You just spoke about Simon Jordan. He was talking on Talk Sport today, and he brought this up. Because obviously they were talking about the card this weekend. He actually offered to pay Bradley Skeet's lawyer fees and court fees to take this to court. And Bradley Skeet turned it down. He says, "I'm not interested. I'm done."
Yeah. It's funny though. It's like we see McCatchell and Taylor. People have talked about taking it to court, and obviously the Speaker of the House of Commons, Lindsay Hoyle's filed a report with the police. Nothing will happen with it because to do that you've got to prove corruption. And that's the same thing that Bradley Skeet would have had to have done, and you're just not going to be able to prove that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the best he could have voted for with it is that the fight got overturned and called a.
Could have been no decision, no contest,
or something like that, and then they could have had a rematch. But if Bradley Skeet's not in the frame of mind to go down that route at this stage in his career, then I wish him all the best.
Yeah. I think that this is where, again, we kind of talk about the organisations, the sanctioning bodies. This is where it kind of falls into a grey area as well, because the Bradley Skeet fight was a WBO fight, wasn't it? It was a WBO European. So what jurisdiction do the British Boxing Board of Control have? They can't necessarily order a rematch for it, mandate it, because it was a WBO fight. So we kind of fall into this grey area where the WBO probably
don't. From our view, it's more the fact that it happened in a British ring with British judges.
Yeah. But I suppose the point I was making is, who would force it? The WBO, it's a small fight for them. They probably don't care. The British Boxing Board of Control, would they enforce it? They should. They should say this should be an immediate rematch, but they can't enforce it. It's a tough one. And we lose great guys. Like
I think as long as what they should have done from a PR perspective, Chris, is seen to be taking some action. The fact that they've not, and also the transparency angle as well. They should have had a full review into it. I know they've dropped the referee, one of the judges down a level, haven't they? Ian, yeah. But where are the notes from the meetings, and why have they not opened the books up?
Yeah.
That's where I'm disappointed.
It's laughable, isn't it? It's just laughable. And the amount of publicity that boxing gets in this country these days. We've got 3 really high quality promoters, and then you get in this. It's real sad.
Well, Lee Wood and Conlon was everything that's good about the sport. Unfortunately, the Catterall fight was everything that's bad about the fight. So we've seen both sides, haven't we? Both ends of the spectrum. Yeah. I'm just disappointed as a normal boxing fan that the British Boxing Board of Control have not come out and at least given us minutes from meetings. Government do it when they do an inquiry. So why shouldn't they?
Absolutely. But that's the thing, British Boxing Board of Control is, as we've always said, one of the best. It's the safest in terms of monitoring the sport and managing it. but we don't hear from them when things go wrong, and that's when it becomes a private limited company that it is, because that's exactly what it is. It's not a public organisation; it is a private limited company, and that's where they can make the decisions, such as we're not going to release anything because they don't have to answer to anybody.
Yeah, well, maybe we need a governing body a bit like FIFA then, who are going to regulate it, boxing.
Well, they tried to establish it in America at one point, didn't they? There was a guy called Senator John McCain tried to put something in where it regulated all the different states of America, but it's just too big, and not the John McClane for Die Hard, but yeah, but just him trying to do that was I think he passed the Muhammad Ali Act, which means that you've got to have the different commissions at least suspending someone if they've been on a card and things, but it's just so difficult to control.
I'd like to see the Department for Culture, Media and Sport get involved and call a parliamentary inquiry. I think that might be the route it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, but just clearly at the minute, we've all got the same feeling, and we just need to wait to see if somebody does something about it. Just going back to Shiraz a minute, Sean, what's your feelings on him?
I mean, from his last fight against Bradley Skeet, that raised a lot of doubt for me on how good he really is.
Yeah,
I think, say, if Jed Smith come in shape and maybe he's more motivated, I think he could pip the fight. But for me, it's raised a lot of doubts for how good Shiraz really is. Really,
I think Jez Smith's record maybe flatters him a little bit because he's lost 4 of his last 6 outings. Last time out, he lost to Bradley Ray. So maybe this isn't quite the matchup we think it's going to be. I see Shiraz taking this in 4 or 5 rounds.
I think with Shiraz, what we've got to remember is he's only still 22, isn't he? And he's a massive he's a massive middleweight. He's like 6'2", 6'3", something like that, isn't he? So, one would expect him, with his knockout record to kind of take Smith out, but he's been matched quite hard as well, because the boy that, we'll talk about when we talk about David Avenisian, Larragia, he's such a heavy force over in Spain, and he took him into the 7th round before he got knocked out there. So, when you see who he's been matched against, he fought the Irish guy that we seen on Saturday as well, and got knocked out, Larragia, Bradley Ray. So, his losses have come in decent company. But maybe it now puts him on a level, and we would expect, Shiraz to take him out on Saturday because of what's happened in his previous 6 fights, as you say, Andy.
Carl?
Yeah, I think Shiraz, it's his reach that I think troubles a lot of people. He's got, he's got long levers, hasn't he? And it looks like he can bang as well. So, yeah, I'd go in around 6 for me, 6, 7, something like that. I don't think it won't be a long night's work.
No, we'll not be too far off that.
What's your prediction, Sean?
Yeah, I agree.
I think Sean agrees.
Okay, on to the headliner. David Avenisian against Oskari Mertz. This is obviously for the European welterweight title. David Avenisian's kind of been forced into taking this because
no one wants to fight him.
So, as I was saying a bit ago, he's sat at number 2 in this year's WBC rankings, 1 behind Ortiz. And that fight should have been made next, but Ortiz obviously then decided he wanted to take on Mccann, which, as we know now, has fell apart because Ortiz is poorly. But the WBC need to do something. They need to make a decision, because you can't just have your fighters that are in the top end of your rankings sat there with a ranking and nothing to show for it. Yeah. It makes no sense. Yeah, David's a European champion and he's proud of that belt. But his long-term goal is to become world champion again.
Well, it's his 5th defence of the EBU. 5th
Yeah.
defence.
I know.
It's a long time.
This is what I mean. This is what I mean, mate. And he's much better than this level. He's much better than this level. But why should he give the belt up just to sit in a number 2 spot ranking and not get anyone in the top 10 want to fight him? Because no one down that level of that top 10 wants to go anywhere near him.
Yeah. And the thing is, he'll not want to give that belt up because, you know, Sean talked about being a traditionalist. You know, when you get the EBU title, you automatically get a top 10 ranking with the WBC, you know, because they're affiliated with the WBC and the British Boxing Board of Control. So, you know, while Avenisian's obviously got a Russian license, he's based out in New York. So, you know, he's going to want to keep that belt so he doesn't lose a negotiation point. You know,
And can we just put to bed this Russian argument as well? Because he's actually Armenian.
I don't even know where his birthplace is. It's
Armenian. He's Armenian. So
he's got Armenian parents. I think he was born in over there, and then because of the war,
he went to Russia.
I think that's basically the crux of it. I mean, there's been a lot. There's been a lot in the media over recent weeks for obvious reasons about stopping anyone that's Russian in any sport being allowed to participate, which I'll give you my opinion on this for what it's worth. And that is that you can't blame an individual for one crazy man's delusion. You know, at the end of the day, these sports people, whether it be boxers, footballers, athletes, as long as there's no proof that their winnings, their earnings are going to that regime, are going directly to Putin's pot for weapons, as long as there's no proof that any of that's happening, what's it got to do with the individual? Just like it's got nothing to do with the general people in Russia, the general public in Russia. So you can't do that to people. It's just not right. It's just not right. That's my opinion anyway.
Do I just put them two comments up in the side, Andy?
Yeah, go for it.
Joe, I think Neil Marsh and Carl Greaves have done a great job with Ava. Not their fault. He can't get proper fights. Absolutely. Carl Greaves don't get enough credit for what he's done with David Avenisian. David was going through a bit of a tough time. He ended up, he lost against Lamont Peterson, lost his world title, WBA world title to Lamont Peterson. And then he had a couple more fights, got a couple of wins, and then he lost. I can't remember who else he lost to, but he lost a fight he shouldn't have lost. And he was demotivated. Since Carl Greaves has had him, he looks an absolute monster and looks like he can walk through anything. Me and Carl have seen it firsthand. We went down to a Carl Greaves show a couple of weeks ago, and David was there. And the camaraderie and the spirit that he's got with Carl and with all the other lads that are in Carl's gym, it stands out, don't it? It shines, don't it, Carl?
Yeah, it does, yeah. Yeah.
What's his English like then if you've been down and...
Getting better. Yeah.
They could understand him. The lads were having a laugh with him. They could understand what was going on. He could understand them. So, yeah, it's improving. I mean, I don't know how long he's been with Carl Greaves now. Been with him a while, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, the group down there, Carl Greaves is a fantastic coach, doesn't get enough credit. Absolutely agree with what Joe's saying there.
Yeah. When we look at his 5 defences, though, they're against decent people, as well. This one, Mertz, isn't a good name. Even when you look at Mertz's record, you don't necessarily know any of the people that he's fought. There's no names at all on it. But
well, let's have it right, Chris. Let's have it right. The Josh Kelly fight, certain people were going in. Josh Kelly was a favourite.
Absolutely, which I never really bought into. Because Josh Kelly was never really. He never really proved it on the professional.
He didn't want that fight, did he? He didn't want that fight. He did everything to avoid that fight.
And I think he was shown up, was it against a guy called Ray Robinson that Josh Kelly was shown up against in America on, was that Madison Square Garden? I can see you nodding, Sean. I'm looking at you for that one. But, you know, I think that on that fight, he was really kind of showing what his level was. So, but Avenisian still had to beat him, and he beat him well. But Laraga is such a good fighter as well, you know, and he's come back and bounced back from the Avenisian fight, you know. So the fact that he's beaten him twice, you know, is a world ranking fight. And as you say, Lamont Peterson, you know, there was a comment in the sidebar there about world champion again. Yeah, at one point, Avenisian had the WBA interim world title, then it was upgraded to the actual regular world title.
Yeah. So just picking up them in the sidebar, Liam Rogers, he doesn't hold a Russian license, he holds a Serbian license.
Correct.
So why should he be put sanctions on the Russian economy? Because the only people it hurts is the people.
As long as these Russian sports stars aren't coming out in support of Putin,
Exactly, yeah.
That's a different scenario then. But the ones who just want to get on with daily life, they've got no control over what Putin does. The interesting one for me is Bivol. You know, there's noises about the Bivol fight. Well, let's see, because there's a hell of a lot of money involved in that fight.
Absolutely.
So, you know, let's see if they've got if they can carry out the conviction.
Is it any surprise that the pressure's being put on the Bivol fight because of where it's being held?
Look, when you're talking about the Canelo fight, the money it generates, the amount of money it's going to generate pay-per-view, you know, it's always going to cause contention at the moment. And the longer this goes on, the more, you know, contention it'll be. But, you know, looking at the sanctions and being in banking and seeing what happens and seeing how the money flows through the system, I can understand how they put the sanctions on. Doesn't necessarily mean to say that you agree with them fully, entirely in terms of the different countries or the people, the individuals it affect. But, yeah, it's a bigger discussion in this show, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that politics shouldn't come into sport. I'm a big believer. There should be no crossover. So, yeah.
On that note, let's get back onto the boxing and let's get away from the politics, eh?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So Carl, you were gonna touch on a certain other fighter not wanting to fight David Avenisian, weren't you? So
yeah, I know I've said this time and time again, and you're going to tell me that, you know, it should have been Ortiz Jr. and etc. But I'm just very disappointed that Conor Benn didn't take the advantage of fighting Avenisian. He would have got his ranking spot for one, and I just question somebody is protecting Conor Benn, and have they really got the self belief in him? Because you allow me to finish?
Go on then.
If he had the self-belief in him, he'll be jumping in with Avenisian to take that ranking spot.
Okay.
You're going to tell me that he's going to have another 20 fights before he has a meaningful one.
No, I'm not going to say that at all. So don't talk for me.
Go on then. He's had 21 fights.
Right. So as we said on the last show, which you obviously forgot about.
No, what it was is nonsense. That's why I forgot it. It's nonsense.
I agreed. What? So agreeing with you is nonsense, is it?
No, I'm talking about. So I've done a bit of homework on the other champions about who they were fighting around this time in their career. So you're talking about Crawford was jumping in with Ricky Burns earlier than this. Ortiz Jr. had even jumped in with Maurice Hooker earlier than this. I would argue even McKinson's got a better opponent than Ben by saying Chris Congo. So, you know, what's happening? Is there belief in him or not?
Are you going to let me talk now?
Yep, go on.
Last week, I agreed with everything you're saying. He should have been fighting better opponents. And this fight he's having now should be a next step up. He should be a top 10 fighter, but it's not. Now, the way you're going about it is you're knocking Ben for it. Ben pays people to manage his career.
No, if you listen to me, I said someone around him is protecting him and they're doing him no favours. So who is it, Andy?
Well, it's at the end, isn't it, obviously?
And what they're going to achieve, because you're going to have to jump in at some point with somebody.
What they're doing is, in my opinion, the reason they've left it as long as they've left it is because you've seen the improvement curve in Ben in this time, in these 20 fights. You have, Carl. Don't shake your head, mate, because it's fact.
But what I'm saying is, this curve's going to increase all the more if it's in meaningful fights.
Right now, I agree with you, but up to this point, he's needed the fights because he didn't have an amateur career. He's needed the fights. I completely agree with you that right now he needs to push it to the next level. Fighting David Avenisian at this point in his career will do him no favours whatsoever because he'll get spanked around the ring. And I'm a big fan. He'll get spanked around the ring. What's the point in that? What does that prove? What does that do for him?
But there is another way to look at it and break it down a different way. The first 10 fights of Ben's career, and someone's mentioned the French binman here, Cedric Peno, they're probably referring to. The first 10 fights of Ben's career was him learning. That was his amateur career, effectively, if we put it in that way. Then the last 10 have been him growing. And as Andy said, he has shown good growth. He's doing well under that Sims camp in London. So
how many more of these rubbish fights are we giving him then?
But if you kind of break it down that way, and I'm not saying that we do, then 10 learning fights, 10 development fights, you should be ready to go, now and start stepping up. And the Chris Van Herden fight isn't the fight to step it up with. That's another mark time fight. I still think that this smacks of Eddie Hearn, knowing that he's got a ticket seller potentially because he can work that Ben name. And you just look at, I think he's testing the waters with the show he's putting on in Manchester to see how many tickets Conor Benn can sell.
I'm not even convinced he's a massive ticket seller at the minute.
I think he sells because of the name, and I still think that even though Katie Taylor was on that Liverpool show just before Christmas, I think a lot of people came to see Conor Benn. I think he might not necessarily be someone who would be recognised by the man in the street, as it were, but boxing people, I think they like him because he kind of comes across as a decent guy, a wee bit of a chip on his shoulder as well. I think people have taken to him.
So in the sidebar, you got they destroyed Conor Benn. They had Ava over at Matchroom, could have made it, and then could have made it and knocked down from the French bin man, as them would, in my opinion. Z1000 says Conor Benn will get stretched by a genuine top level welterweight.
He will.
Z1000 he's fighting inactive, washed up 140 pounders.
I think it's Joe's made a comment there about, as I say, it will be the Cedric Peno fight, but the Conor Benn that fought Peno and the Conor Benn that fights Algieri, very different Conor Benns.
Absolutely agree, mate. Absolutely agree. It's like night and day. It's a completely different fighter.
Yeah.
But Cole's not wrong. Cole's not wrong. He needs to be fighting world-class opponents, not the very, very best. He doesn't want to be fighting the Ortizes of this world or the Avenisians of this world. He's not quite there yet, but he does need to be fighting top 10.
Yeah.
Joe said in the sidebar, is he really a ticket seller? Wouldn't he be selling out the O2 in his own town?
But that's what said, I genuinely think Eddie Hearn's trying to see if he is a ticket seller because he got 10,000 in Liverpool. Could he get more in Manchester?
The bit I don't like, and it's frustrating me, it's not really aimed at Conor Benn. It's aimed at the team around him. I think he's been given luxuries that he shouldn't be given. And when you talk about other fighters, Andy, well, this is, Ben's been given some gimme fights here, some gimme fights. And that's what sticks in my throat because you can't tell me, we don't even know how good he is.
No.
We don't even know how good he is. You talk about him being world class, we don't know that. He's not been in with anyone. We don't even know he's European class.
Hold on a minute. Let me stop you there. I didn't say he was world class.
No, but he said he's going to win a world title sooner or later. So he must think he's going to get to world class.
I said a year ago he'll win a world title within 2 years. So he's got so he's still on that learning curve. So until I'm proven wrong, I haven't said he's world class. He needs to take that next step to prove it. I think he can be.
I'm bored of it. That's what I am, because he's giving gimme fights, and I can't be the only one getting bored of Conor Benn.
I think we all are, and certainly when he announced Van Herden, we all kind of sighed. We said that last week. Interesting comment in the sidebar there from Z1000. They said he's lucky his second name is Ben. I don't think that's luck. I think that's, something which he's had to really struggle with and fight with. It's luck in the fact that he's got the exposure, But, you know, we're all expecting him to be Nigel Benn. We're all expecting him to be a heavy digger. We're all expecting him to be great because of who his dad is. I think he's had a lot of pressure to deal with. And
Joe makes a good point. Joe says they do love a vacant title at Matchroom. They better pray one comes vacant because that's the only way Ben's winning one.
I think Ben gets a lot of stick, really. I think Eddie Hearn as well. I don't necessarily think it's from them. I think Tony Sims has a bigger say than what we all think, because whenever Eddie Hearn mentions his Conor Ben, he always says Tony Sims turns down such opponents. So I think really it's Tony Sims that's controlling his career, and maybe he's seen something in the gym that's made him say that he's maybe not as good as many people think he is, really.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what it is. But I think, you know, we're doing a disservice to David Avenisian if we're talking about Conor Ben. You know, we should be talking about Avenisian and where he goes as well, you know, after, you know, because one would see that he beats this Mertz and he beats him quite handily this weekend, you know. So where does Avenisian go thereafter if he gets his pick of the fight?
Well, Frank Warren's got to get his checkbook open, hasn't he? That's what Frank Warren's got to do.
Frank Warren needs to be putting pressure on the WBC to make a decision. They need to be forcing somebody to face him for that mandatory spot, because that's the fight that was supposed to have been happening.
Yeah.
How Ortiz has been allowed to go off and fight Mccann, I don't know. I don't understand it. Mckinson's high up in the rankings as well. Don't get me wrong; he's a really good fighter.
I like Mccann.
That wasn't the fight that was made for the mandatory spot. It was David Avenisian.
Yeah.
So the question is, why is Ortiz not wanting it? Why don't he want to take it?
So, I tell you something, you know, we were talking about Mccann there. The fight he's accepted at really short notice is a tough kid.
Yeah.
And if that fight had have actually been made for, you know, Mckinson's got a WBO global title or whatever, if that fight had been made for that, we would have been not complaining at all. You know,
props to Mccann, though. Props to him. He's jumping in into.
Oh, totally. You know, and he was at the time as well. You know, he's only got like 2 knockouts. Mccann, you know, he's going in against the guy who's 18 knockouts, Ortiz, something like that. You know, crazy record. You know, so to go over there and go into America and try that, and then it gets postponed, and then he takes another hard fight. You know, the guy's just shown that he is a real fighter. So, you know, hopefully he comes through unscathed on Saturday.
Couple of questions a couple of statements in the sidebar. Why not go the traditional route with Ben? Hearn can't build fighters correctly. Joe says, to be frank, Ben pushes the narrative. He's a chip off the old block, so does Nigel. Cedric, good evening, Cedric. Question, does Ben have a chin? Can we call him Gata type fighter? That will please the crowd.
I've said from day one, and I said it about his old man, Ben's the sort of fighter that gets you on the edge of your seat because you never know what's going to happen with him. There's always that chance, because of the way he fights, there's always that chance he's going to get sparked out. But there's always that chance he's going to spark his opponent out. That's what, for me, that makes an exciting fight.
Absolutely.
You know, don't knock him because he's not, you know, he's not a slick back foot fighter. Don't knock him for that. Don't knock him because he's not the golden boy of that style of fighting. He's an old school warrior.
He's Lee Wood-esque. That's what he is.
Yeah, he is. And we're going to find out whether
Lee's naming.
If fighting that way, we'll level, aren't we?
But I think we shouldn't get question about Ben's chin. We've not seen him being hit yet. You know, and even though he went down against Pino, you know, he was already saying he had one eye going on holiday there. I think he wasn't really sure if he loved the game at that point. I think he does.
You haven't been in because you haven't been in with no one.
Anyway,
Give me strength.
I tell you what, the Pano fight was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Absolutely, woke him up in many ways. Totally woke him up.
Anyway, moving on. Unless anyone else has got anything else to say about David Avenisian. In fact, Sean, where would you put him? Who should he fight after this fight? Because obviously he's got to fight this fight. He'll come through it very, very easily, very convincingly. He needs to be fighting for that mandatory spot, WBC mandatory spot. If Ortiz is not going to take it, I mean, he's poorly at the minute. He didn't want to take it before, so I can't imagine he would want to take it next. who's the next in line for that shot? Who do you think he goes to next, Sean? Who should they make the fight with?
I think him against so even someone like Marky Garcia may be a decent fight, because I don't see him fighting for a world title, not how they're all tied up. I think sort of Avenisian needs sort of in between level where he is now and the world champion. So if it's someone like that, that will give him a good test, really.
Yeah.
Back Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman, number 3, I think.
I think anyone with a name, anyone who's going to give him some profile.
That's what he needs. He needs, as Carol said, he just needs a name. Even someone like a Morris Hooker would be an ideal opponent for him, someone who's had a belt, but, Hooker's not got necessarily a big name at the box office. Thurman would be a great fight, but would PBC, who back Thurman, put that fight on? Not in the way Keith Thurman's looked recently.
Yeah, Joe's made a couple of good points. He's put the loser of Spence Ugas. Good shot.
Great fight.
If they can get him in.
Great fight.
They talk about Kell Brook's resurgence. What about Kell Brook and with David Avenisian?
No. Jesus Christ. Really?
Yeah. Boots Ennis would be a great fight.
Well, by all accounts, Chris, when Ortiz didn't want the fight, they went to Boots Ennis next, and he didn't want it neither.
Yeah. Which you can totally understand with the way that Avenisian's been.
Isn't that who needs him club at the minute, Avenisian, isn't it?
Totally, and because he doesn't have a massive bankroll behind him and they can't necessarily buy an opponent themselves, they're almost kind of in this limbo land, aren't they? Because unfortunately Carol Greaves just doesn't have that kind of pull and sway on the other side of the water, and how much money would Frank Warren really put behind him? It'd be great to showcase him on something like the Dillian White, Tyson Fury undercard, wouldn't it? It really would.
Yeah, he needs a big platform so the world can remember what he's about.
But surely if you're Warren and you had some form of, goal for Avenisian, you'd put him on that fight where you could maybe absorb the cost of bringing over a decent fighter, by the gate, It'd be ideal for him to get him on there. Maybe if he has a quick win at the weekend, maybe they do that and do a quick turnaround, who knows?
He should be right up on the bill as well if they get the right opponent for him.
Yeah.
Right high up on the bill. I like the idea of Ugas though. That'd be a cracking fight.
Yeah, I think he's better. I think Ugas is even better than the Manny Pacquiao result showed. Because he was fighting quite a faded Manny Pacquiao who looked very slow from the first round.
I was about to say, I've got another take, Chris. I don't think we know how good Ugas is because he fought Pacquiao.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying there.
Yeah.
Because you could see from round one, Manny just wasn't really at the races,
Yeah.
And he controlled him really, really well. So yeah, I think he could be a real player in the division.
So also this weekend, move on from the BT card. Also this weekend over in Dubai is 2 cards. There's a card on tomorrow night, and then the main card's on Saturday night. So just touching on tomorrow night's headliner, Estelle Mosley, who's the IBO World Lightweight Champion. She's very highly ranked in the other governing bodies as well. She's number 2 with the WBC, IBF and Ring Magazine, and number 4 with the WBA. She makes a bit of history. She's a French fighter. She makes a bit of history tomorrow night. She's the first female fighter to defend a world title in Dubai. So she needs a lot of credit for that, even if it's one of the more unfashionable titles, let's say.
Fair play to Dubai as well, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes against their grain, given that we're politicking tonight.
5 points for telling us who she's married to.
Tony Yoka.
Hold on. Someone's been doing some research.
Nah, they both fought the Olympics, didn't they? They're both really, really good kids, So
she won the 2016 Rio, didn't she? So if I was Terry Harper, I'd have one eye on this fight because I think Terry Harper could go straight in with this kid.
I know that we said we would kind of steer away from the show. I actually thought after a roundy ring rust on Saturday, I thought Terry boxed quite well.
Yeah, I did.
You know, and I think once she realised that she wasn't going to get her opponent out, she started to try a few things in the ring, and you could see her actually working and thinking rather than just try to blow out. So, you know, her versus Mosley would be a really, really good fight. You know, I think if they get the Heather Hardy fight back on again, another one for her to kind of showcase and learn against. So, but,
and what it will do for Harper as well is it puts her right up there in the rankings if she beats Mosley.
Yeah.
I just question the power. That's any part of the game that I question.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, she's a really good boxer though, Carl. I think she's better than we probably gave her credit for. It's either that or Tasha Jonas has, you know, shown how great she is, because the more that you see of Terry Harper and the more you see of Katie Taylor, the more it makes you realise just how good Natasha Jonas really is.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually very impressed with Terry Harper at the weekend. That's the you know, first time we've obviously seen her since she got beat, and you know, I actually thought the way that she was even standing, she commanded the ring really well, and her foot movement was better than I actually give her credit for. You know, and while as Carol says, she probably lacks power there. You know, I thought that she actually did a really good performance and showed nice little uppercuts, and you know, she was beginning to feint at times, and you could genuinely see her twisting her shoulder, working on different things.
I don't think her boxing credentials were ever in question. It's more like I've said about can she plant her feet and bang when she needs to? That would be my question.
Yeah, but I just thought, I'll be honest, she was better than I thought she was, maybe.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I'd agree. And I think maybe that moving up a weight has probably gave her a little bit of confidence in the fact that she can maybe box for 10 rounds now, where maybe before, especially the last couple of fights, she might have been holding back a little bit, thinking she needs to say something for the later rounds.
Yeah, especially if she was feeling weak at the weight, you know. And yeah, I just thought she looked good. She looked genuinely happy as well on Saturday.
Yeah,
you know, that she won, and after she won, she looked a wee bit emotional. So,
yeah.
But a really good card, and the Mosley fight would be a really good one.
I can see after this undisputed fight with Taylor and Serrano, I can see these belts getting split up. I don't think Katie Taylor's got a lot left in. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if she retires, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah.
So I can see these belts getting split up, which is going to be great news for the likes of Terry Harper and the other girls that are in those top ranks. Sean, where do you see Harper going? Can you see her fighting for a title at any point?
Yeah, but I think it depends if they do come split up, because I don't think she'll beat Katie Taylor if they was to fight. I think that's her best hope, maybe a vacant title. She did look good. She looks a lot more healthy at the new weight she's at, but I think in terms of being a world title fight, it depends really how the land slides after the Katie Taylor fight, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on that, boys, or shall we move on?
No, move on from that. It was a good shout to mention Estelle. Yeah.
Okay, moving on to the Saturday card in Probellum. For Probellum in Dubai. There's a couple of great fights, headlining fights. But just touching on one on the undercard, TJ Dahoney's facing featherweight title, facing Cesar Juarez. Is that how that's pronounced? Juarez.
Let me see.
I think it's pronounced like that. He's 27-10. TJ Dahoney's 22-3. There's a lot of this whole card's light fighters, isn't it? It's in, you know, the biggest weight in there is a super lightweight progress fight, which we'll touch on in a second. I noticed Probellum have done this quite a bit. They seem to have picked up a lot of lower weight fighters. Do you think that's been a strategy?
I wouldn't have thought so. I think they've just gone for people that they perceive that they can build into ticket sellers, if I'm honest with you. Right. That's my opinion. Obviously, I like the way they're going about this business model because they're building it up. They're not just, I won't name other broadcasters, but throwing a load of money into it and hoping it comes off. I think Probellum will prove to be a very shrewd business model. They've got some very big plays, both from the commercial world and obviously Richard Schaefer as well, who's been there, done it, brought the T-shirt. Their acquisition of talent on and off screen is very good. I mean, I like the John O'Carroll fight. You've got Sonny Edwards as well, haven't you? I'm assuming coming on too. So I think they're getting a very shrewd stable together.
Yeah. And I think we've touched upon it before when we've seen that they got Ritson and Ricky Burns in the UK. You know, you're kind of thinking, why are you going out and announcing these? Are they great signings? They're almost, as we said before, the regional signings in a way. Ritson gives you the Northeast for a card. Ricky Burns gives you Scotland for a card. You know, and a lot of their signings do seem to be that. And I think that they're trying to get different countries represented that we've not seen before. So, you know, that the Richard Schaefer model, I think one worked with Golden Boy. You know, let's see what he can do with Probellum. You know, I think he's a great guy, and the sport missed him when he left Golden Boy, and certainly Golden Boy missed him. You know, so it's great to have him back. It would be absolutely, I think someone, imagine like Richard Schaefer working with Eddie Hearn, it would be golden. It really would. You know, but
yeah, I mean, Sonny, I don't know if you're coming on to Sonny Edwards, Andy, but there's a comment in the sidebar. I was on the Sonny Edwards hype train, but the lad gives me a bad head. I can't listen to him anymore. And he just goes on to say that the show's on Eurosport. Sonny Edwards is acting some strange behaviour at the minute, isn't it? Both on social media and...
I was going to say, we'll touch on some of his social media stuff in a minute. I hear what Joe's saying, but Sonny Edwards is one hell of a fighter.
He is, yeah.
The interesting thing for me is that all of these cards are in Dubai. The fact that they've not tried to break the US market, or they've not tried to break the UK market by putting fights on over here or over there.
Well, they've had a couple of shows in the UK, haven't they? A couple of smaller ones, Liverpool and Newcastle.
Not big shows that are not shows that are going to create any waves with the other promoters.
I just don't think they're there yet, though, Andy, because
that's what I was just about to say, which is why they're in Dubai, isn't it? There's a lot of money over there. There's, you know, they're rubbing shoulders with some high-profile people. I mean, that might be their base. That might be their platform. They might just stay there for a year or two before they go anywhere else.
And I think that's what they've done there, because Sonny Edwards, let's face it, he's not a ticket seller in any way, shape or form either, you know. So if he goes over there, the Dubai, you know, the sheikhs, they'll actually buy a fight over there to kind of say, look, we've bought a world title fight to Dubai, you know. And like when you see how much money they spent on, say, the Abu Dhabi racetrack there, they said that they spent a good £1 billion on that and knew that they would never get it back, you know. So again, here it's about bringing stuff over there to publicise the city of Abu Dhabi, or the country of Abu Dhabi, you know. So it's a decent business model for Abu Dhabi, and Probellum are just working off the back of it and actually getting some fights there, and there'll be decent purses for fighters that wouldn't command those levels of purses.
And I'd probably say, Chris, that they're probably looking for some investment in terms of investment from oil money to bring fights over to the UK.
Yeah, because that then puts Richard Schaefer on a platform where he can say to these guys, look, we've now got, you know, something with Discovery Plus, we've now got this, we can showcase, you know, Dubai, United Arab Emirates. So it's very shrewd to keep the fight over there, you know. But what it does take Sonny Edwards away from the UK, which, given what he writes on Twitter and posts on Twitter, I'm quite happy with. I think I had to mute him. God, he was doing my head in.
Okay, let's go on to the main two fights then. Regis Prograis is fighting Tyrone McKenna. Regis Prograis is a great fighter. Obviously, only losing to Josh Taylor in the World Super Series. Tyrone McKenna is 22-2. His only two losses have come to Ahara Davis and Jack Catterall. How do you see this fight, Chris?
When it was announced, I thought it was a bit of a strange fight for Prograis to take, really. I couldn't really understand it because it doesn't really give him anything. But I think it's just a workout. And no disrespect to McKenna, but, you know, I don't expect McKenna to win. I'm not even sure I really expect McKenna to trouble him. because he's not a puncher, is he really, Tyrone McKenna? So I think for me it's a workout fight for Regis Prograis. Keeps him busy while all the titles are tied up. So I think it'll be a stoppage win. I think it could be a very, very hard night for Tyrone McKenna. I think I can see him getting really badly beaten, as it were, in terms of face swelling, because his face does cut up and goes red and puffy quite well. And you've seen him in some of the fights where he won. Was it? I'm trying to think. Was it the Felix fight? He was really bashed up at the end of it. So I can see Prograis stopping him late, maybe about 7 to 8 rounds, something like that. I think this one's scheduled for 10.
Yeah.
So 7 and 8, I can see Prograis stopping him, maybe on his feet, maybe after he's exhausted.
Quite interesting that Prograis has gone to propel him, though, isn't it, Chris? It shows ambition.
For both fighters, I think they probably sold him on, we can actually get you this, we can get you introductions into here. I like Prograis. When he came back after Taylor, Ivan Redkach is a really, really good fighter, and he put on a reasonable performance to stop him in 6. So, I think we all really liked him. When he fought Terry Flanagan, we've seen what he was about. When he fought Kali Raleigh, we've seen what he was about. So I really like Regis Prograis.
He's got balls, Hunter. He's got balls.
And the fight with Taylor was a great, great fight.
Absolutely. Sean, what's your feelings on Prograis?
Yeah, I think Prograis comes through. But speaking of Dubai and the big events this weekend, I don't know what you guys make of it, but there's another fight going on. I think it's like the world's strongest men or whatever. But Fior and Eddie Hall, I don't know what you guys think about that. For me, it's a kind of mockery of boxing, really.
So, as everyone knows from this show, I can't stand YouTube boxing where boxers think that where YouTubers think they're boxers. This is completely different.
Oh my God!
I'll tell you why. Let me explain. Let me explain. I'll tell you why it's different.
Let me just get comfortable because I'm waiting for this.
I'll tell you why it's different, because these two aren't pretending to be boxers. They're not going to box again after this. They're not trying to become professional boxers. All they want to do is take each other's head off because they can't stand each other. This goes back. If you don't know, I'll tell you a little tale. This goes back to 2017, and Sean's right. They're both strong men. In 2017, Eddie Hall, who's English, if anyone don't know, and Thor is Icelandic, I believe.
He's Icelandic. Yeah.
They both fought in the world. They both competed in the world's strongest man. Thor is this legendary strong guy that everyone thinks should have been world's strongest man 5 or 6 times by now. And in 2017, he was expected to win it easily, and he didn't, because Eddie Hall did. And all Thor did was cry about it. And he's tried to belittle Eddie Hall's victory because he thought he was cheated. So ever since 2017, this has stuck in Eddie Hall's throat. So this is no more than what it says on the tin. It's going to be a brawl. It's not going to be a boxing match. It's going to be who lands first, because these guys weigh about 25, 26 stone each.
It's the heaviest fight of all time.
Apparently so.
But you just wonder if they're actually, they're going to be able to dig, because I'm no strongman expert, but did Eddie Hall, he was the first one to lift, what, was it 500 kilograms, and Thor lifted 501?
Yeah. Well,
so they're going to have to bang, aren't they? They're going to have power. But
they're going to be ridiculously heavy-handed, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's whether they're capable. I mean, I've seen a couple of YouTube videos of Thor's previous fights, and they're an absolute joke.
Well, he fought Stevie Ward, didn't he? The Irish guy.
He did, yeah.
I think, and he might have knocked him down or whatever.
He's been with Billy Nelson, hasn't he, since November.
Yeah. The transformation for both been pretty cool.
A bit more seriously, don't it?
That
says he's being with Billy Nelson. That says he's taking this particular fight a bit more serious, because they hate each other. This is not play. I mean, I don't know if you've seen.
It doesn't belong in a boxing ring for me.
Of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. And it will never happen again. These two won't fight again, Carl. He's not
talking about having some more fights afterwards.
Who is?
4.
That's not what he said earlier on.
That's what he said yesterday in the IFL interview.
Well, he's obviously changing his tune daily then, because he said earlier on that he's not interested in fighting after this. And Billy Nelson's even said he probably won't fight after
What Billy
this.
Nelson says was he's got no interest in turning pro, but he will be open to some more exhibition bouts.
All right, well, fair enough. I don't see Eddie Hall fighting again. He's not interested. He just wants to right what he sees as a wrong, and that's it. It's nothing more than that. It's a bit of white collar.
Well, they'll both have. Well, Billy Nelson, won't take on a dummy, and I'm sure that Billy would have tried to teach him the basics, and he would have given him that, and I'm sure Eddie Hall's probably done the same.
Well, if you look at body shape, Thor looks in very good shape.
Yeah.
Whereas Eddie Hall still looks a bit, whether he's got the flexibility,
Yeah.
If you ask, I'm going to predict that Thor will score him in this fight.
I don't know whether you know about this, but this fight should have happened a while back, and it didn't happen because in sparring, Eddie Hall ripped his bicep muscle off the bone.
Yeah. Which was an injury he was carrying in one of the world's strongest men as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, he had it reattached, and he was back in the ring within a week, which tells you the mentality of the guy. He's an absolute nutcase. So I'm not going to stay up and watch it, but I will watch it just for the sheer fun.
It's only on at 10:30.
Oh, is it?
What's it on? I've taken no interest in it.
I believe it's called Ziggy TV. Don't quote me on that, but it's something very similar to that.
And is that on Sky or is that on?
It's an app.
Right, never heard of it.
He's fighting an hour after Sonny Edwards, apparently.
Right.
I mean, will I watch it? Yes. Do I think it belongs in boxing? No, just like the YouTubers don't. But I'll probably watch it if nothing else is on.
Hey, look, it's not Christmas unless the world's strongest man's on, is it?
Well, I've got a soft spot just for the fact that I've watched World's Strongest Man since I was a little kid. It's kind of a Christmas tradition in our house.
Absolutely. And I'll claim the world title then by saying shout out to my fellow Tom Stoltman. There we go.
Yeah. But just back to Sonny Edwards. He doesn't get the stature or the praise he probably deserves because he's not with the top two.
Well, he was with him, wasn't he? I don't quite understand what happened there between him and Frank Warren. Sorry, Frank Warren.
Yeah, he was with Frank Warren.
Because it kind of just fizzled out, didn't it?
Yeah.
His contract must have ran out, Carl. And
I know, but my point being, like I said, it's not often Frank Warren lets world title holders go easily. But he seems quite amicable. So whether he's not a ticket seller, like we've said, or he's got ideas of what Pappy wants to take, but his career's just drifting.
Yeah. And the thing is, him and Warren look quite tight. Did you not think that after he won the world title, I thought, God, look, those guys really get on. And, that performance when he won his world title just went so under the radar, but yet it was probably one of the best performances of the year. He almost won every single minute of every round. And yet, as you say, Carl, he's just drifted thereafter and not done anything. And it's the same with his brother. After his brother, had that fight which he lost and they overturned it, which was ridiculous, really. He's just drifted as well.
Yeah.
We talk about the British Boxing Board of Control. That fight when Charlie Edwards lost his world title, then it actually got changed to a no contest. I thought that was probably one of the worst overturned decisions I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just one more thing. I'm conscious of time. Just one more thing, guys, I want to touch on, and that is the little bit of beef that Joe Joyce has been having with Shane McGuigan on social media, because it's gone from just being Shane McGuigan and Joe Joyce to Anthony Joshua getting involved, Sonny Edwards getting involved, and it's ended up being a little bit naughty, a little bit nasty. Now, whether this is a bit of play and it's all to build the Joe Joyce against Joshua fight, if it is, it's great. It's a great way to publicise it. But this has all come from Shane McGuigan did an interview and he was asked a question of if Joe Joyce fights Anthony Joshua, what happens? And Shane McGuigan says that Anthony Joshua knocks him out easily, and then references the 2 amateur fights they had where Joshua knocked him out in 1 round, in one of them. And Joe Joyce has taken that quite badly. There's a little bit of history when Joe Joyce turned pro, Shane McGuigan was starting to get him into his gym, and it didn't happen. He obviously went somewhere else. So Joe Joyce is obviously thinking he's only coming out and saying this because I didn't go to his gym. So it's ended up being a bit ridiculous. So my question to you lads is, these guys are at the very, very pinnacle of the game. Should they be getting involved in pathetic social media spats like the sort of spats that we have? Daft lads that make comments about our little channel.
Yeah, I think it's boxing's an entertainment sport at the end of the day. So you've got a narrative to build, haven't you? We speak about Eddie Hearn being very good at building narratives of boxers. I wouldn't like to see too much of this in social media, but if AJ versus Joyce was called tomorrow, you'd be watching it, wouldn't you? It's got a lot more, and even the casuals would start linking in because they perceive that bit of needle between them at weigh-ins, etc. So I think it's got, as long as it's not done too much, as long as people, because I've seen a few snippets where they're getting personal with the legend, Shane McGuigan. I don't like all that. I don't keep personal lives out of it. But no, I think look, we're not snowflakes, are we? So I think he's got his part to play.
You say
some of it was quite funny though, wasn't it? Like AJ was like, "What, you waited 5 years to come back with that?"
Yeah.
Like some of it was quite funny, but I think what it did this week, I think Joe Joyce got more airplay this week than he's probably done in the first part of his career. So
no such thing as bad PR, Christopher, is there?
Not at all. We'll take it. So I actually think it did him a favour for it, and it probably now makes people clamour for the fight a little bit more, because those two and all the names even we threw about, we never really threw together Joyce and AJ as having a fight together, did we?
You say we're not snowflakes, Cole. Why is Joe Joyce taking it so personal when somebody's just giving their opinion on a fight?
We don't know he's taking it so personal. He might just be playing the games, We're not to know he's taking it personal. He might not even manage his social media accounts.
Yeah, he does. That's been confirmed today.
No, what they confirmed is he gets started of everything that's posted out, but he has got a social media team. So he rubber stamps them. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't mean that he's crying about it on his pillow every night, does it?
But the one thing about Joyce is we've got to remember he's pretty old for a heavyweight, isn't he? He's got to make money now and make it quickly, because his career will not be one that lasts forever. So, if you can call it AJ and do exactly what Dillian White did, and reference their amateur fights and say, let's do it. You've seen it paid off for Dillian White. And really, White has built a career off his fights against AJ. And while he's then came on and become his own man, really, he only got public awareness because of what he did with AJ in the amateurs and then that fight for the British title. So,
and all George is doing, Chris, is seizing the opportunity.
Carpe diem, absolutely. Yeah.
Sean, Anthony Joshua's obviously taking a lot of confidence from that amateur fight. If he's considering taking this fight with Joe Joyce, if it happens, what do you see happening in the fight?
Yeah, I think AJ will win, but for me, he needs an opponent that's more suited to Usyk, really. I mean, surely the whole point of taking an interim fight is to get him geared up for that. Maybe AJ wants a new fight under a new trainer to sort of establish a relationship. But for me, I don't really see the point in fighting Joyce. I think he needs someone that resembles Usyk and that can get him his confidence back, and one that will suit him more to his style, really.
It don't happen anyway, Sean. It don't happen.
You don't think?
Would you put AJ in with Joe Joyce, the way that he punches, the way that AJ body reacted against Ruiz?
I think Joe Joyce is all wrong for Anthony Joshua in so many different ways.
Because if he doesn't go, and he doesn't just capitulate, which I don't think he would in any way, shape or form, then what does AJ do there? Does he try and outbox him?
He's in a world of trouble, then, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's in a world of trouble. If you don't get Joe Joyce out of there in 2 rounds, he's in a world of trouble.
My prediction is Michael Hunter.
What for who?
For AJ.
Oh, right, okay.
You heard it here first. I reckon it'll be Michael Hunter.
There's been
Michael-
noise. Chisora's going to be fighting Michael Hunter.
Yeah, Michael Hunter was getting called out by Chisora this week.
He's been called out by everybody, Hunter, but I think AJ will fight Hunter.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It'll be an interesting match if that happened, because Hunter's fought Usyk before, hasn't he? He is a boxer. He's a smaller man. He moves around.
Yeah.
If you want, as Sean says, someone that can maybe not necessarily mimic the style, because I don't think anybody could, but someone who's got some similarities to Usyk, then maybe Hunter is your man. Plus, he's smaller, so he wouldn't, because Hunter really is a cruiserweight, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
He's fighting at heavyweight. I think a lot of it to do with his dad. He wanted to kind of emulate his dad, the body. Yeah.
Well, boys, we're an hour and 20 minutes in. It's been a great show once again. I'll hand it over to you, Carl, to close the show.
Okay. Christopher, thank you very much for coming on. Much appreciated. Sean, thank you for coming on again. And we'll phone you, don't you phone us. Everyone in the sidebar, really appreciate you joining. If you've not liked or subscribed to the channel, please do so. We go live every Thursday, 7 p.m. Join us next week. See you then.